Welcome to the program. The topic is On the Steps to City Hall. I have a special guest in studio. Is Mike Stryer, candidate for LA Unified School Board District 4. Mike, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Good.
Appreciate being here.
The school board, I mean, that's an important area. I think it means education. It means teaching young people about things. But before we go into that, let's tell the audience something about yourself. What were you doing before you're an educator? I know on the interview you mentioned you're a teacher now. What did you do before?
Sure. Well, currently I teach at Fairfax High School. I teach 10th and 12th grade. I teach social studies, and I've been teaching at Fairfax for the last 6 years. It's been a wonderful experience. I've really enjoyed it. Previous to teaching, I was in the business world. I was in international sales and finance, working as the head of international divisions of U.S. companies, exporting around the world. And I also worked in international finance in New York, working primarily with Latin America.
Okay, great. So that's an extensive financial background. I'm sure in that area you've got a chance to see what was going around the world in other cities and so on here. Mike, tell us something about, in your teaching capacity now, what's really motivated you to become a candidate?
What's motivated me is I see two sides of our system. On the one hand, I see tremendous opportunity. I see a wonderful group of students. I've considered it a privilege to be teaching the students that I teach. We have a wonderful diversity at Fairfax. We have 35 different languages spoken.
Wow.
I've been in, when I teach, I often have 7 languages spoken in my classroom. We have extraordinary diversity. We have a great group of students. I think, as a whole, they're motivated, they're respectful. I think they're eager to succeed. The other side of it is we have a school system, and I think most of us recognize it, that doesn't meet the needs of our students and community. What we have here in LA is pretty much a dysfunctional school system that mismanages resources.
Okay.
There are exceptions. And we know the results of this. We know about the large class sizes. We know about the unacceptable conditions of schools. We know about the high dropout rates, unclean campuses, etc. And this motivates me to really focus on changing this. I think there is an opportunity for change, and that's why I'm a candidate for school board.
Well, that's a very good explanation, Mike, and I think you mentioned too the environment of the school. What about safety concerns? Do you think that students feel comfortable that will help, provide an environment that is conducive to learning? What do you believe now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safety is paramount. When you have an unsafe environment, or even fearful students, or fearful teachers or administrators, you're not having an effective educational environment. Mm-hmm. There needs to be a premium put on safety in the schools. One thing we can be doing is, I think, changing the discipline policy that we have in LA Unified. I think the LA Times, maybe 2 years ago, referred to it as a wet noodle discipline policy. Basically, it's a policy without any teeth. Basically, what we do is we take the small number of truly troubled students and shift them from school to school, instead of providing them an environment at some type of special intervention schools in which they can get back on the right track. And the costs are enormous for us, because not only do we have to spend a lot of resources in managing those students, but it creates an unsafe environment. So that's one side of it. Mm-hmm. The other side is, I think we need to provide opportunities for students to do something outside of the classroom and outside of the normal school day. And that means after school programs, that could mean electives during the day, music classes, art classes, shop classes, classes that really offer students the ability to succeed. We have a great case at Fairfax High School of our band. We didn't have a band 3 years ago. There was no band. We didn't have instruments. We didn't have musicians. And we now have a band program with 100 students who, after school, every day, come, and they won the citywide competition. It's extraordinary. But what's really important about this is it gave them an opportunity to do something meaningful outside of school. And we've had a dramatic increase in the performance of our students and also in the overall environment at Fairfax. And I think that can be done across the district.
Now, Mike, let's take it on a district level issue. You mentioned discipline, and the ones that are unruly or don't tend to flow into the thing of things at school, they're being switched to another school. But that isn't really solving the problem, is it, Mike?
That's right. Basically, they're being shifted from one school to another school, perhaps in the hope that they'll improve at the next school, when in fact the support systems aren't there for them. And we need to have high expectations. Make it known that an acceptable level of behavior is absolutely imperative. But on the other hand, give them the support. Many of them come from very challenged backgrounds, and I think with some support they can succeed. But to shift them from one school to another has devastating consequences for them and for the school environment and the safety of our schools.
Now, you mentioned as part of the topics resources. Are there enough resources in terms of money and motivated teachers and or instructions to bring about this change? What do you think?
There are. Despite the budget crisis that we're going through today, despite the weak economy, the fact is that LA Unified is not efficient with the huge amount of money that goes through the system. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that $400 to $500 million can be cut without negatively impacting our students in classroom. And what we need to start doing is asking ourselves, how does the money impact the school and the classroom? If it doesn't, if it doesn't provide benefits for the school and the classroom, we shouldn't be doing it. And there are a lot of cases that we see in LA Unified where they're spending money on programs that don't benefit the school or the school site. We spend about $1,000 per student for programs outside of the classroom, for programs that don't directly impact students. That's a far higher number than other school districts. If you look at New York, if you look at Chicago, the comparable numbers are a fraction of that, perhaps 30, 40, 50% less. So I think by really taking a hard look, and this is what I plan to do if I'm elected to school board, by taking a hard look at the financial spending of the district and basically the spending that is done on non-critical programs, I think we can do some of the things that we're talking about, and even in a tough budgetary environment.
So Mike, actually, it's a combination of things. The resources, from what you're saying, are there. They have to be spent in a more efficient way. And other than that, there's the issue of safety that we talked about. And in terms of these two issues, do you think building more schools, say within the 4th District, is favorable or not favorable in your view?
Well, the challenge that LA Unified has now is that we have seen over the last 3 or 4 years declining enrollment in the district. The district enrollment has actually dropped by about 50,000 or so. At the same time, we've completed or are nearing the end of the building phase that was initiated a number of years ago. So we have a surplus of classrooms. The problem is not the physical classrooms. The problem is the conditions of our existing schools. I was told by a teacher yesterday, and I'm not making this up, that the teacher was told by the administrator not to use the air conditioner because, quote, it would blow the asbestos around. Now, these are the kind of things that we're dealing with. Schools that, on the one hand, we have brand new schools, state-of-the-art schools. On the other hand, we have a lot of schools that are in disrepair and decay. And I think particularly with the approval of the recent bond measure, we're in a position to be able to start focusing on improvement of the existing schools, which are facing challenges because of their age and other factors.